So, when you think winemaker, what comes to mind? Probably someone out in a vineyard, right? Carefully tending to the grapes. But what if I told you the real winemakers, the most important ones, are totally invisible? In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and find out who they really are. So, let's follow the journey of this invisible workforce as they face what's basically a microbial gauntlet. It's this brutal, competitive process that turns simple grape juice into the complex, amazing wine we all love. All right, so our story kicks off the second those grapes are crushed. And what you have isn't just juice, it's a bustling ecosystem. I mean, think of it like a tiny, complex world, just teeming with all sorts of microbes, all ready to go to battle. And just look at the cast of characters we start with. You've got these lactic acid bacteria, or LAB for short, and they're coming from everywhere. The grape skins, the leaves, even the equipment in the winery. We're talking thousands of them per milliliter at this stage. It's a real mix of species like Lactobacillus and Pediococcus. And you see that one, Onococcus oni? It's in there, but right now it's a nobody, just a tiny part of the crowd. But, before those bacteria can even get started, the first great trial kicks off. This is the main event pretty much everyone knows, alcoholic fermentation. And it is completely dominated by one single powerful titan. And here it is. Meat. Saccharomyces cerevisiae. This is the yeast. This guy is the absolute engine of winemaking. Winemakers add it, or sometimes it's just hanging around naturally, and its one job is to completely tear up the old environment and build a new one. So how does it take over? Well, it just goes on this insane feeding frenzy, gobbling up all the sugar in the grapes. And as it does that, it produces ethanol, that's the alcohol of course, and a bunch of carbon dioxide. But here's the kicker. In the process, it also acts like a vacuum, sucking up all the essential nutrients. This makes the place way, way less friendly for everybody else. So, once the yeast is done, the party is officially over. The world these other microbes were living in, it's gone. It's been transformed into this harsh, almost barren landscape. From here on out, survival is the only thing that matters. And it's in this incredibly challenging new world that our second key process gets started. It's called malolactic fermentation, or MLF. This is where the few lactic acid bacteria that survive step up. They take this really sharp, apple-like malic acid and convert it into a much softer, creamier lactic acid. It's absolutely critical for toning down the acidity and adding all that delicious complexity, especially to red wines. And you can see the effect right here. I mean, look at that population crash. The number of lactic acid bacteria just plummets during that first fermentation. We started with thousands in every single milliliter, and now we're lucky if there are a few hundred left. The environment the yeast created is it's just too much for most of them. So what exactly makes this gauntlet so brutal? Well, for starters, the wine is now packed with alcohol, which is basically poison to most bacteria. It's also super acidic, with a pH often dipping below 3.5. All the good food, the nutrients, has been eaten by the yeast. And to top it all off, winemakers often add sulfur dioxide, SO2, just to make sure almost nothing else can grow. It's like an obstacle course designed for failure. But from the ashes of this microbial battlefield, a champion emerges. There's one species of bacteria that wasn't just built to survive these conditions, it was built to thrive in them. So let's meet the undisputed champion of malolactic fermentation, Oenococcus oni. Remember this guy, the minor player from the beginning? Well, now the stage is perfectly set for it to take over. And look, the science is totally clear on this. This quote really says it all. When it comes to tolerating the incredibly tough environment of post-fermentation wine, Oenococcus oni is, well, it's just in a league of its own. No contest. So what's its secret? It's all about its survival toolkit. While other bacteria are getting wiped out by the acid, O. oni actually loves a low pH. It can handle seriously high ethanol levels, it can shrug off SO2, and it's just perfectly adapted to that nutrient desert the yeast left behind. This incredible toughness is exactly why it's the go-to for winemakers who need to kickstart this process with a starter culture. Okay, but the story isn't over. As science keeps pushing forward, we're seeing new challengers emerge for the malolactic throne. And these are organisms that were once seen as the bad guys, but now we're realizing they have some pretty unique talents. So enter the challenger, Lactobacillus. Yeah, that's right. The same group that was hanging around at the very beginning. These little rod-shaped bacteria are now being looked at in a completely new way. You see, for the longest time, a lot of lactobacillus species were just considered spoilage organisms in wine. The thinking was they'd create off flavors or make the wine too acidic. But some really fascinating new research is showing that with the right strains and under the right conditions, they can actually be incredibly powerful tools. So let's break down the difference in their specialties, because it's pretty cool. You've got Oyerliani, the ultimate survivor. It's a specialist at deacidification and just making the wine stable, especially in those low pH conditions. Lactobacillus, on the other hand, is more of a flavor modifier. It actually prefers a slightly higher pH, and it comes equipped with this whole different toolkit of enzymes. And these enzymes can create and change aromas in the wine, adding a whole new dimension of complexity. So here's the big takeaway. What we're finding out is that certain strains of lactobacillus can do the main job, that malolactic fermentation, just as well as our champion, O-Oni. But the really exciting part is that they leave behind a completely different aromatic fingerprint. And that opens the door to a whole new universe of wine styles. So, the next time you pour a glass of wine, maybe just pause for a second. Will you think about that invisible workforce, about the titanic yeast that completely terraformed that little world, and the microbial champion, or maybe the challenger, that had to run that brutal gauntlet to finish the job? Because all of that drama, it's right there in your glass.